This week, I want to get back to focusing strictly on your Emmy stories. I want this to be a video that reaches out to skeptics out there who write off the quantum effect as entirely being false memories and rebranding. I really hope that these stories, which focus on personality shifts, physical location shifts, and historical changes, will help people understand that if they're referring to the effect as nothing but suggestion and false memories, they haven't done their homework. They're using pop culture references to explain an effect that's transforming every part of our lives, not our kids' books and song lyrics. Those things are interesting, but they can be attributed to faulty memory. The situations that I want to introduce skeptics to cannot be. These stories come from independent sources. They haven't been discussed beforehand, and most people have been scared to tell anyone at all. These are not psychotic people. These are not mentally impaired people. These are real people, just like you, who have had experiences that most skeptics would lose their minds over if they had had. With that in mind, here are real Mandela effect stories from real people who count, just like you do. Last year on 4/27/16, I came into work and was going to clock in, but for the life of me I couldn't remember my clock-in number, which is extra odd as I have to type it in 8 times per day and have been doing it for 2 years. I stood in front of that clock and started to sweat and feel odd. It was about 2 minutes before I realized that my clock-in number was the day's date, 4/27, and even as I was typing it, it still felt wrong. Part of me said, of course that's your number, but the other part felt confusion. I'm just now realizing that 4/27 of this year is when my cat Milo died and was also the day I found your channel. The feeling of experiencing a synchronicity and noticing an ME, that gut feeling something is off, is akin to a lightning bolt, lighting up your awareness of that which is in front of you. Pay attention. Don't cast anything aside as not applicable. The thing which helped me was respecting other people's rabbit holes. When someone shares a wild story outside of the bounds of my definition of reality, I respect that it was developed from a conscious being, no different than myself. Experience is the only true teacher. JC. Story 2, NB. This last winter, my husband and I were driving and there was a bridge with, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood," engraved in concrete. I laughed and I said to my husband, "What stupid idiot did that?" I have 5 kids, believe me, I know the song. I was going through YouTube when I came across ME. Being the skeptic that I am, I looked everything up and found everything I could and thought that maybe companies just changed things. I finally brought this to my husband's attention, and at first he was like, "Wow, that is weird. I wonder how they did that." Now, if I say anything, he becomes suddenly irritated with me and says, like that really matters in our lives. Or worse, he just pretends not to even hear me. This is where it gets really weird. Last night we were watching TV, and he said he'd like to buy me a hat like that one that was on TV. I looked at him really stupidly and said, "I'd never wear a hat like that, ever," and then I laughed. He got this nasty look and got very nasty with me and said that he had brought me hats just like it, but in different colors. That's when I said I'd never ever had a hat like that, nor would I ever wear a hat like that. He then said he'd bought me over 100 hats, and that I used to wear them all the time. Now I was getting a bit freaked out. I said, okay, whatever, but I can tell you the only hats I've ever worn were warm winter hats, garden hats, and I once had a fishing hat, but that's it. And if I had 100 hats, wouldn't I know? Where are they? You know what he told me? He told me I should have myself evaluated because I had lost my mind. I don't have anybody else to talk to about this. Thanks for listening, MB. Story 3, S. I've tried and tried to remember Obama running for president before 2012, and I just can't. For my husband and I, we remember him running for the first time against Hillary Clinton. We don't remember McCain, and up until he was elected, Bush was president, so for us, hearing that he served 2 terms, it was just a little troubling. I don't know if anybody else has these same memories, but if so, we haven't heard anything about it. S. Story 4, PM. I was born in South America, lived there for 20 years, and now based in Europe. In February of 2017, I visited Peru, and to my surprise, a taxi driver made a comment about the rainy winter. I asked, "Is it winter right now?" And he answered yes. I've been in Peru 8 times before. Same city, same place, same time of year. and I know it was always summer then. I love coffee espresso, but in almost every bar in Cusco they have filtered coffee, not espresso. So on Sunday morning, I decided to find a bar that serves espresso. Walking in the center, I saw a bar called Top Quality. The name was in English, something really unusual for a city where everything else is not. I decided to check it out and I asked if they served espresso, and they replied, of course. I sat at the terrace, a large concrete platform with a 1-meter tall glass wall around it. I was drinking a double espresso when an unusual young woman sat at the table next to me. She said that she had just arrived and wanted some tips on how to get around. She said she was from London. We talked for about 15 minutes, smoked a cigarette, and before leaving we took a few selfies. The next day I told 4 friends of mine that were traveling with me that I'd take them to a good coffee shop. But when we arrived at the location, the coffee shop was gone. At first they thought I simply confused the location, but I was sure it was right there, in that place. Then they thought I was joking, since according to the locals, there'd never been a coffee shop there. But all of them got really puzzled when I showed them the photos on my mobile phone, and you could see that it was the same location. The terrace, its glass walls, the tables and chairs, and me drinking an espresso in a parallel timeline. Thanks, P. Story 5 DS. I'm subscribed to many channels on The Effect and get notifications about new videos posted. I received one yesterday on Taryn P. Lupo's channel about ringing in the ears and how chiropractors can treat this. It was very informative, this video, especially for somebody who had ringing in their ears since the 90s. And this is why I remembered it so clearly. Remembered it, you say? Yes, remembered it. In past tense. Initially, I thought it was just a reposted video, so I contacted him, and when I asked the good doctor, he said he had been planning on doing the video for quite a while prior to yesterday, and that it was never a repost. It turns out some other subscriber also conveyed the same, so now I'm curious to see if anybody else is sharing this new type of precognition. D.
Hi. I'm doing this video. I've pretty much been forced to do this video because I can't hold this in anymore about what's going on in my life. I've been going through this for, probably quite a few years now, where things have been just going wacko in my life, and I didn't know what was happening until just, the past 6 months. There's just constant changes in my life that I feel like if I don't talk about it, I'm just gonna, I have one family member that actually believes me. I know a lot of people don't have that. The thing that I'm dealing with here is I have seen my local cemetery changing. And a friend of mine who passed away, his tombstone is different, like every other week when I go over there. It's 1 week, he was a drummer. His tombstone used to have drumsticks on it. And, had like a nickname, his nickname, and he was just, a guy I really liked, and I always remembered him. And I went over there with my mom one day, and the tombstone had totally changed. It was a dark brown, whereas before it was like a flat stone, and it had drumsticks on the stone, and it was like a gray color. Well, this next tombstone was just a brown color, no drumsticks, nothing. It was just plain. And the one that I just recently saw, I went today just to see if anything had changed, and yeah, it's different again. It's brown and gray now, but no drumsticks. And I'm not remembering wrong. I'm not confabulating. I'm not, I have a photographic memory, and I have an associate's degree in applied science. I'm not just some person out here spitting off stupidity that, hey, this has changed, and, without really knowing. My cemetery near my town is totally different. There's mausoleums at different places than where they used to be. One's missing, one's totally changed. My father is buried out there, and his has stayed the same so far. It hasn't changed at all. My grandfather's is the same, and my family members are the same. Everything else, even the trees, there were trees missing at one point along a line by a cornfield, and where there used to be trees, and then they all disappeared, and now today there's 3 trees there. So, it's just constant changing of the stones, the trees, the landscape. I guess what I'm trying to say is that anybody that's familiar with your cemetery that goes there a lot, I mean a lot, you've got to go like every other week and check it and just keep checking. You're going to start seeing things different. I mean, it will blow your mind. It's not a label. It's not, something that's, on a package or whatever. It's something that's actually changing in real time that you can keep track of. And there was one man out there that was buried, and my mom said, "Oh, hey, I just saw him last week." I'm like, "What? He's been dead since 1983. It says so on the stone." She's like, "Well, I just saw him at my class reunion, and I know it was him, and I know he was a friend of mine. I want to know if if I'm not alone in all of this, because sometimes I just feel like you just feel like you're losing it." And you're not, because there's so many people out there that are going through similar things.
For those who believe the Mandela effect is all about false memory and groupthink, they most often haven't fully looked into the effect. People who are experiencing these changes to their immediate realities are not forgetting what they remember a cereal box looking like as a child. They're not getting people confused with other people. They're experiencing a real physical phenomenon that they are unable to explain. This is affecting their present. The stories featured in this video, and in turn all of my videos, show that there are physical changes taking place for people. Places and things in their lives, the people that they know. These are trustworthy people. These are doctors, nurses, therapists, military, business people, and stay-at-home parents. These are people who are experiencing real-time changes that baffle and frighten them, and they have little to no one to share that with. The majority of people would love to write everything off via Occam's razor, but the sort of overwhelming lumping together of experiences keeps human species from progressing. Open your minds, open your hearts, and open your damn eyes. There are thousands of people experiencing the same odd glitches in the Matrix. At what point do you realize that maybe you're missing something, and that they're not alone?